On these stones and other things, Orizixis, the Hunner, Vabi, Zihlel, Leo, Ahweeb, Nebanazit, Izlil, Zu, and outside of the circle and within at the same time. Orizixis, Husbandum, Vabi, Zamzam, Zulis, Zah, Riorah, Lim, Uzirah, Tavmarks, Vamgavam, Zepti. And
it came to me that no matter who we are or where we're at or anything like that, it's hard to get away from this conditioning that society puts on people, and just conditioning. It's time to uncondition. It's time to uncondition, strip away all the stuff, that it's unfairly been placed in our thoughts, and deep inner reflection can help bring about a true transformation. One of the things that can help.
You might want to. Oh, you're not talking through a wire like I am, but the right you have your phone propped somewhere.
Yeah, can you hear me again?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Some of it was fading in and out. So, so just using one, just referring to one of the words that is referenced as a place, but we're going to use it as the concept, the Plishtan, the wanderers of Tiamat. This myth that we share is, there's other forms of it, like the Saturn eating his young and then spitting him out. In the Tiamat version, it's that Tiamat's attacked and survives and ends up with 12 kids. Mm-hmm. Maybe not all at once. Maybe that's why the myth is in different parts. But Genesis 21:33 and 34. And he planted a tamarisk at Beersheba and invoked there the name of God as a verb and noun. The everlasting power. And Abraham resided in the land of the Philistines a long time. Now, of course, we know in Western languages, Philistine became treated as an insult. But we see here that obviously it couldn't have been, obviously it's referring to people before Abraham, right? Mm-hmm. And remember, Tiamat renders as Tamtum. So Tan and Tum are also the same. And Leviathan is basically the male son. So it's kind of like Kingu, because you're talking about you said something about the 13 lineages, and that sort of thing here is that you see the ring of, Kingu, Bashmu, Ushumgalu, Mushmachu, Muchchushu, Lachmu, Ugalu, Urudimu, Umudabrotu, Kukululu, Lahamu, Kasariku, and Gir Tablulu. And the bull man, very specifically here, we have Gud Dumu Alim Anu. And yeah. What was my point of that? Okay, so there's 12. So the open bloodline is the scorpion people. And Tiamat, oh, what's up? Okay, scorpion people. I should look this up real quickly here. They're to wage war against the younger people, the usurping. Remember how I did my seasonal rite regarding Pazuzu and Humawa? Well, I mean, if you looked further back in my channel to see some of the stuff I did, that was one of the myths that I had. So this is the same thing. So the people have opened themselves to that. The Yazidi also have this 13th bloodline that is open, so it's not necessarily by descent. And these are, these people, these scorpion people are people that are allowed to enter into the land of darkness, and they're allowed to go by day, so they can be day walkers, as people might call them, and they're in touch with death, and they're basically to avenge and restore the order that's talked about being lost in what we have. What could you do?
That explains what I was trying to say earlier. Like, things were in my thoughts and I couldn't spit it out into words. So that's very interesting.
And continuing in Genesis, which is called Brashit 26:1, there was a famine in the land, aside from the previous famine that had occurred in the days of Abraham, and Isaac went to Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, in Gerar. And switching over to verse 8, we have I'm looking for the little number here. Okay, when some time had passed, Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, looking out of the window, saw Isaac fondling his wife Rebekah. And remember the thing, just like there was a famine during Abraham, that aspect of the myth repeats. And also Abraham fakes, according to the story, and says, oh, that's not really my wife, it's my sister. And it's like, oh, you don't do that with a sister, I caught you. And it's like, yeah, we didn't want to have to fight over her. And it's like, if it's some other dude's wife, it's like, why would you just assume people are gonna fight with you and take that? But anyways, he acquired, verse 14, he acquired flocks and herds and a large household, so that the Philistines envied him. And verse 15, and the Philistines stopped all the wells which his father's servants had dug up in the days of his father Abraham, and filling them with earth. And okay, that's something that happens with nowadays. Those people filling those wells before October 7th of this year and acting like, oh no, and they started it. It's like, no, you started it by filling their wells. If that's all that happened, which it wasn't, but not really making the political thing about it here. It's just verse 18, Isaac dug anew the wells which had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, which the Philistines had stopped up after Abraham's death, and he gave them the same names that his father had given them. Okay, so calling them the Philistines was the same insult that was used before. That's sort of the thing too, like Canaan, the Canaanites, they didn't call themselves Canaanites. That was something that was done to them later. And I'm
interesting.
What's the thing? Was it 147 or whatever? The when the Romans captured the land of Judea, they renamed it
I'm not sure.
with the Greek name Palestina, and so it wasn't, again, it wasn't a self-designated title.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that, just because the names of the country changed, that it doesn't matter what the people are, right? 23:3. Nor shall you show difference to a poor man in his dispute. Okay. That doesn't quite sound what we're looking for. And I don't see it here. If you,
verse 23.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's 23, because it's when my angel goes before you and brings you to the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and I annihilate them. But again, that doesn't list. There's different versions of some of this stuff. People think, oh, there's one thing in the Bible or whatever. And let me look one more place
Okay.
to see if it's somewhere else in this chapter. No, it doesn't really. I don't know what it is, but it says 23:3. So Leviticus 25:3. And that is 6 years you may sow your field, and 6 you may prune your vineyard, and it shall yield.
Mhm.
Oh,
Kind of like how to give the land a break, I guess you could say.
well, that's the thing too, is it's like my eventual goal here is to sit back and, well, not sit back, is if I'm let to, I can but I'll have to rotate. If I get to the point where I can plow and plant everything, I'll have to rotate what I put some places.
Right. And it takes years to really get soil in a good shape. A good healthy condition.
And one thing I saw earlier today was this comment. I mean, it was in a book, so but I don't even think that the people who had it, is a comment back before internet. But it was basically along the lines of, you don't have, it's against the idea of a mere book of, but if you treat something as a mere book of facts and not theory, not mythology, then you end up, it's just history, and you read it and it's just history and it's a reference. So there's a lot of history of culture and stuff like the Bible, but if you can't look at the well, I think that's one of the things that happened with the Protestants in particular, is that they turned it into just being some history book. And then they couldn't operate it like it had meaning and purpose.
Okay.
47:1, the word of God as a verb and noun came upon Jeremiah concerning the Philistines before Pharaoh conquered Gaza. And back in the day, the word for Gaza was Azah. So that's one thing that can confuse people quite a bit, is that the words change. That I mean, we have different versions the word.
Yeah.
If we're looking for the exact way that we say it in English, we may not find it. But these divisions into the different parts of the Holy Land, a lot of that already existed. So the West Bank and the northern country and Gaza and stuff like this, some of this stuff was already there. Okay, Zechariah 2:16. Basically, one of the I select verses that connect to the themes of that I'm operating the seasonal in, and I'll redo the thing here. Okay, what's 16? I'm stumbling a lot with my words today, but
I've done that all day.
it gets me ready. Working through things, it gets me ready for the main event. So if people want to skip and just watch the main event without the explanation, that's it's up to you what you watch. Anyways, God is a bourbon now and will take Judah to himself, his petition in the Holy Land, and he will choose Jerusalem once more. So see, that being chosen can be taken away and returned and all that other stuff. So all these people out there talking about this unconditional favor, it's just that's nonsense. Like a lot of this stuff that you have the word your, you know what that actually is talking about? Let me check what time I'm at. That stuff about your, it's actually tamed, so it's conditioned. So the suffix of the K isn't the same in the biblical languages it's in Arabic. In Arabic, it's like your, but in Aramaic, it's that which is subdued. So it's not your nation is automatically your nation. It's the nations that are subdued. Joel 3:4. The sun shall turn into blood and the moon. The sun shall turn into darkness and the moon into blood. So I had thought for a bit that this was just going to be all about the terms related to Palestine as a concept and an ancient thing, and we're talking about more stuff. But of course, the moon and blood, of course, is more important than the sun reference in the whole Tiamat thing. But and we'll go over my little summary of the thing in a minute here. And we have Ezekiel. The order is different. That's the Christians change the order of what they call the Old Testament to change the effect, but it makes it confusing when you're looking when you look into the language, because then you have to switch around because they're usually not going to put it in the Christian order. And it ends up being 24 books. And I never hear LDS people make that argument. Oh, they talk about 24 books, and it's like it could have been known. Joseph Smith could have known there were 24 books in what they call the Old Testament instead of a bigger number, but kind of didn't. It's there, that reference to 24, so it lines up kind of. So okay, 1657. Before your own wickedness was exposed, so you must now bear the mockery of the daughters of Aram and all her neighbors, the daughters of Philistia, who jeer at you on every side. And so, yeah, their neighbors are going to know who they are. It's like right now it's being exposed what was done with tens of thousands of captives, hundreds of thousands of people over the past, 50 years in particular. A lot of that's been exposed lately. And now they talk of derisively, and they've changed the definition of some stuff. It's like the word Arab means Semite, so the Arabs are the Semites, and these other people, so they've changed the definition of that to serve a purpose. 108.
Wow.
9. Gilead and Manasseh would be mine. Ephraim, my chief stronghold. Judah, my scepter. So, okay, this in the context, they're dividing up Shechem, and they're measuring up the valley, and the people from the northeast are coming down upon Judah, And the people from the other direction towards Egypt, so the southwest, and so on Edom, and cast the shoe, and to raise a shout over Philistia. And 60 Psalm. And of course, when I do these rituals, I try to sing the verses I'm going over. But we're doing the English here. So God promised in his sanctuary, divinity promised in his sanctuary, that I would exultantly divide up Shechem and measure the valley of Succoth. Oh, it's just the same thing. Gilead of Manasseh would be mine, Ephraim my chief stronghold, Judah my scepter, Moab would be my wash basin, on Edom would I cast my shoe, acclaim me, O Philistia. So we're going through verse 10, just like with the other. And that's it with that book. So let's think again over the thing. If you have any thoughts about Yule, or you have a couple books I don't, so maybe you have some ideas related to.
I know in the first video I was going to put some notes in the comments, so I'll do the same for this one if I can. If I think today my thoughts have been a little just bouncy, and my words are just awful.
Well, waking up to more countries joining in a war that could spread its way over here, combined with volcanic events that could cause tidal waves, all sorts of fun stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
And you know how people are with the internet. You put on the title that it's a graveyard, and someone wants to argue with you that it's a cemetery, and another person, and if you put a cemetery, someone wants to say it's a graveyard, and some other person says no, it's none of those things, it's a memorial park. And it's like, are you aware those things in a shrine are the same thing?
Everybody, right.
Like where was I? Was it Kentucky? Was it Kentucky that there was a that I was at that Eisenhower's, or was that Kansas? Something. And so there's graves in there. It's cement. It's a building, but it's
a memorial park. Okay,
it's all the same thing.
That's kind of funny.
And so Tum, supernal mother of the storm-tossed sea and the vaster deep space beyond, Eldris, who has sought over this world and dead since the cosmic battle in which Kingu, the unskilled laborer, Bashmu, the venomous snake, Ushungalu, the great dragon, Mushmachu, exalted or distinguished snake, Mushchushu, red furious serpent, Lachmu, hairy one, Ugalu, big weather beast, Urudimu, crazy dog or mad lion, Umu Dambrutu, fierce, violent storms, Kululu, fishman, Lahamu, smooth bear one, or she of animals, Kasariku, bowman, and Girtablulu, scorpion people, which are Agrabuamalu, were formed towards revenging the dead and establishing the Ankh's tablets of destiny. Having said her riddle, she curls round with the Wiatan and Bahmut in its essence to rise and descend from the crystalline cave for eternity. The portals are open for the throngs of Klushtan to choose between the separation of fear and death, to commune beyond sleep for the restoration of unity with fire night and clay. There shall be no price to pay for you and me. For the conditions at hand and of the past, there is the becoming of chamus and being gray. Ask no other than theirs by day. Hamas will shine in a different way. By numbers and signs, we won't fail to guess and enact what you say. Burning away, we of Chemush do not dismay. Prior to their groups and interpretations is for each to strengthen and be upon what you yourself says. Heroic actions and attributes bring the changes. Label it as what they may. The illusion falls for the transformed in the mysterious current of the cyclic towards a lineal energy and eternity of transcendent nobility. And I didn't mean to say energy there, but that works too, right?
That's right. There's always a reason for everything.
And we have here, we have the, referring to the seal again. We have, I put this on cedar wood, and I put the other on, I don't know what type of stone this is, but, it seemed like the rock that I was going to paint for this. And so we have the pentagram of the body, because the whole Tiamat myth here. And okay. So Tum Tum, the shining one, the primordial mother, the entity of the sea, that sort of reference here. The idea is that Enki's son, Marduk, cuts her, but then again, she sets up filling with poison instead of blood, and Kingu is the firstborn of the list, which is basically separate from the others. And so is this because you have a tree of life and the others? And so the north wind bears it away, but then again, that's where the return is from. And then we have this myth of these people of the north that are supposed to come.
At University of Phoenix, we offer an...
Okay, did you accidentally hear the commercial that popped up in the background?
Just a second of it.
I think it should be fine. I thought that
yeah, it was just literally
the internet's like that, but it it should be.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So that's it for trying to make it trying to open up that thing, right? And so I'm not sure where we should continue here. We have less than 10 minutes. I'm not sure which of the other two we can get into, but let's see what we can share here. And the tablets of destiny, the ancient alien people go too far with that. It's really a spiritual concept more than anything. It's more like a scripture, and it's their power that they return by according to their terms, not the terms of these younger individuals that have brought about this thing. So Romans 11:25-27. Let's see what I chose to throw into the meanings, because it's not just place. And this is to them that from my covenant when I have taken away their sins as regards indeed the glad tidings they are enemies on your account. Okay, the word for sins is amartias. Oh, so it's something towards death, probably you can say. But that's not really it. As regards indeed every glad tiding, they are enemies on your account, but as regards the election, beloved on the account of the fathers, not to be repented of, for they are the gifts and the calling of deity. And so, yeah, if you have a spiritual mission, you know, you don't have to, regardless what people say about it, it's like, you know, that's how things are. Oh, I said 27 to 29. I guess it's so 25 and 26. For net do I wish you to be for not do I wish you to be ignorant, brethren, of this mystery, that you may be in yourselves wise, that hardness in part to Israel has happened until the fullness of the nations be come in, and so that all Israel shall be saved, according as it has been written, shall come out of Zion to deliver, and he shall turn up the ungodliness from Jacob. So again, they have stepped it's about a nation that has stepped away from its own proper way, right? And it's because they become stubborn. And what's more hard-hearted than a very conservative way of life, right? Is that you just follow along and whatever opinions have been labeled down upon you, and then the world has to come in and say, you know, because the inner mystery, rather than some stereotype of the Gnostic thing, is something along the lines of it, you know, it agrees with itself, right? Inner and the outer mystery are not some conflict where you have to hate your outer life and all this stuff that, you know, they get into. So Acts 6, 1, 6 to 8, and okay. But having arisen, the rumor of this came together a multitude and were confounded, because heard one each his own language speaking them, and were amazed, all the wondered, saying to one another, not lo, all these who are speaking Galileans, and how we hear each in our own language in which we were born. And now we have devices to translate. But one of the things that I like to do with my seasonal rites is I like to, you know, I like to make them, I like to get barbaric. You know what I mean? I like to use the glossolalia and stuff like that. I just don't like to use my chants, but I end up saying weird things that I don't know what are, and I do that on purpose, you know.
Sometimes it's said that people can hear, you know, in English what some people call it tongues, or
yeah, the speaking in tongues thing. What you do to make it happen,
like pulled out of a person.
What you do to make it happen is you use your you know, you build up sort of a state, and you let your control mechanism in the front of your brain kind of shut off. In your brainstem, you want to activate that, but you sort of work your way into more full use. It's not like these people who say you're only using 6% of your brain, or 12 or 10 or whatever nonsense they're telling you. You're supposed to be using it all. But it's really a switch towards that sort of thing. And just like with the satanic front symbol, which Sangre para Satanas, blood for Satan, is a subdivision of, we can think of this as a tool. So the tool is the being that makes its descent. And when they say feminine, it's not, you know, each thing has its part. It's like in this myth, we're talking different aspects of the people who rebel by, you know, using the names as terms, not just some reference to some entity, but as terms, and connecting to that to the scorpion people, and connecting that to those who go about turning into a quest thing. And so the pentagram is like your real world deeds. You bring it out into the light, you could say. You know, it's definitely solar. But then again, you're reflecting stuff and you're honest. So there's a context that you're reflecting something. And in the case of this myth, you're reflecting, you know, the tablets. You're reflecting the reference to the former order that is being somewhat covered up. And
That was a good note right there.
And one of the things that's sort of confusing to some people is the reference to God or goddess and stuff like this. And it's like, yes, it can be thought of in that way. But, you know, you see that thing that's like, you know, it's 8 lines, but it's made by drawing 4 pegs. And it forms in sort of a circle. And so that it means that these things are of a different realm. Like as said in the other program connected to this, is we have the clay being and the fire being and the light being, and you could say that that's one of the things that we're representing here. And it's all sort of beyond this mere material thing, because if you encounter your soul, you're encountering something, you know. And 666, one of the meanings, Therion is the beast. So again, you're becoming you're accepting your beast self rather than fighting your material self, because your material self is the vehicle that you know you've been formed with. So opposing your very tool of existence.
Right.
And the tool in the other one relates to, you know, because you got that pitchfork, and that pitchfork again, it's like the tool of the underworld, of the sea. But it's not always, you know, a physical sea, the subconscious, the superconscious, that sort of stuff. But it's like those Grail quest. Why those Grail stories, Parsifal and all that, King Arthur and all that, was so popular. A huge reason behind that was that they